Good morning. My name is Juan Diego Vázquez Guerra, and today I'm going to talk about atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The atomic bombing is managed within the scope of the scientific community. Experts in nuclear physics such as Eugene Paul Wigner and Leo Szilard, both Hughes of Hungarian origin, were convinced of the real possibility of making a new bomb, based on the great advanced experiments in the fission of the atom, aware of its unfathomable repercussions. They did not hide their concern about the scientific process that, in nuclear matters, was obtained in the laboratories of Nazi Germany. Even reaches the conclusion that such a powerful weapon could lead Adolf Hitler to achieving his dream of the world domination. In its beginnings, nobody could imagine what the final results would be, much less that Japan would be the target where the first atomic bomb would be dropped one morning in August 1955. During the 1930s, numerous German, Soviet, and American scientists developed theoretical research and began laboratory experimentation to lay the foundations for nuclear physics. The outbreak of the Second World War accelerated research work, directing it towards the search for a weapon capable of taking advantage of the immense potential offered by nuclear energy. In 1942, President Roosevelt approved the construction of an atomic bomb, known as the Manhattan Project. The complex project was developed mainly in three large labs on the United States. First, Los Alamos in New Mexico, where the atomic bombs were built and the first experimental nuclear explosion. Second, Oak Ridge in Tennessee, where the uranium 235 used in the bomb was obtained in Hiroshima. And fourth, Washington, in which the reactors were built, thanks to which it was possible to obtain plutonium 239 used in the bomb dropped of Nagasaki. In this lab, the first controlled nuclear reaction was obtained on December 2 in 1942. There were two nuclear attacks ordained by Harry S. Truman, President of the United States, against the Empire of Japan. The attacks were carried out on August 6 and August 9, 1945, respectively. On August 6, followed by the first detonation of the Little Boy in Hiroshima and the second detonation of the Fat Man in August 9 in the city of Nagasaki. To the date, these bombings constitute the only nuclear attacks in the history. In 1945, the United States and Japan had been fighting for 4 years in the Pacific War, one of the biggest events of the World War II. On July 26 of that year, U.S. President Truman uses an ultimatum against the Japanese. He demanded unconditional surrender, otherwise swift and utter destruction awaited them. Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. The atomic age begins. In Japanese city of 400,000 souls, he destroyed in a few seconds. A new historical stage opens. The physical effect of the atomic bomb was incredible, unexpected beyond all imagination. The moral effect was catastrophic. The Japanese military were powerless to hide the news. Within a few hours, within a few days, the survivors of the catastrophe told the country the fantastic story of an incandescent bomb dropped from the sky by the Americans that burned everything in its path. 3 days later, on August 9, Nagasaki was another victim of this ruthless power surprised by a lethal weapon, and the Japanese wise men discovered its principle. The emperor summoned his military people and told them that capitulation was inevitable. The same day after the attack, the first reports about the devastation effects of the atomic bomb came to light. All the people who live there has been exterminated. To date, everything that is now about the destruction effects that will result from the use of nuclear weapons in a war, taking as reference the use by the United States of atomic weapons against the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the context of the Second World War. Certainly, the days of August 6 and August 9 in 1945 have gone down in history as the only days in which men used nuclear energy against other human beings for destruction purpose. This showed that the atomic weapon was not only a strategic weapon, but that it was a threat and, in his case, used it to defeat or scare the adversary in a warlike conflict. In 1941, Japan attacked the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor, which led the United States to declare war on Japan in the framework of World War II. After a long and effective offensive by the United States, in which Japan lost Okinawa, Tokyo, and Osaka, were bombed and the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were attacked. This fact made Japan capitulate to the US Army on August 15 in 1945. On August 10, 4 days after the first atomic bomb was dropped, and just one day after the second, Japan sent its first surrender overthrew Swiss diplomatic Max Grassley, the U.S. Secretary of State James F. Byrnes. With this gesture began the negotiation that would lead to the signing of the unconditional surrender of Japan to the Allied forces, and thus put an end to the World War II. The U.S. Army occupied Japanese territory until 1952, after which Japan would begin its economic recovery. It must be understood that the very denomination of nuclear weapons is due to the fact that their destructive power is closely associated with the release of the energy from the manipulation of the nucleus of the atoms of certain products or substances. There are two systems of nuclear energy production that have give rise to so many other types of nuclear weapons. From a strictly military point of view, the experience was decisive since it caused the immediate capitulation of Japan. This demonstrated that the atomic weapons was not only a strategic weapon, but that it was a decisive weapon in the sense that whoever possessed it could treat it and, where appropriate, use it to conclusively defeat the adversary in a war conflict. From a political perspective, the result was much more uncertain, as it led to an acceleration in Soviet and British investigation in order to equip themselves with this deadly weapon. From the economic dimension, it led to the diversion of a very important part of human and financially resourced toward nuclear research from directly military purposes, delaying the development of nuclear technology for directly civil purposes. But above all, Hiroshima and Nagasaki constituted, from the humanitarian point of view, the dramatic and irrefutable proof of the deadly reach and the qualitative leap in the destructive capacity that had been achieved with the new nuclear weapons. Finally, conclusion and personal opinion. I think this event has marked history mainly because of that the human losses and especially the consequences that came later. The use that has been given to the nuclear energy is negative, behind used for a destructive purpose that will only affect many innocent people. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the first of the atomic bomb attacks by the United States against Japan, an event that would mark the end of the World War II. These dates and city mentioned about suffered because of an atomic weapon that killed thousands of people who could not defend themselves, triggering a cessation of historical events that marked the future of those days of August 1945. The direct effects of the bombing on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were truly devastating on the affected area in terms of loss of human lives and material damage. We refer to this fact because today these dangers of nuclear attacks are seen again as a means of trading countries. Finally, today I invite you to reflect on this fact that is not very common, but that has come to mark history. We can even consider it as an event that marks a new stage in the history of humanity. Sadly, this fact claimed many innocent lives, and our duty as historians is to rescue this fact, keep the memory alive so that no event that affects the world is repeated